Welcome to the Actors Yard podcast with me, Dean Graham, and today I am joined by actor Jacob Ifan.
Hey, how are you?
I paused there for a moment
because
I was like, because I remember we met a few years ago, but I wonder how many people call you Jacob in comparison to Jacob.
It's I would say a bi-weekly occurrence. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to get in there early.
And out of those times, how often do you correct people?
Strangely, I do correct them if they say Jacob.
Yeah.
I often don't correct them if they say Jacob. So I get Jacob more than I get Jacob. And I think that's because people are like, I know it's not Jacob. I know it's something different.
Yeah.
So then they'll say, okay, well, what's the closest thing? And they've heard Jacob.
Yeah.
So they go, Jacob. And I quite enjoy that name.
It's not a bad name.
So I just let it slide.
Yeah, nice.
Whereas Jacob, I don't know, I think I have like connotations from like being a kid and everyone getting my name wrong that I still have, you know, a little bit of thorn on my side about that name.
Yeah. Does it wind you up?
It doesn't wind me up because why... Yeah, I don't let myself get annoyed by it because that's the way it's spelled.
Yeah.
If it was spelled with a K or, you know, it's the exact same. It's about like, why would someone just assume that it was Jacob?
Yeah.
So I don't get annoyed, no, generally.
Yeah.
I've got my best mate's dad. I've known my best mate for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And he still calls me Jacob, and I'm fine with it. If anything, I'd be disappointed if he did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about Ivan?
Ivan's my middle name.
Even I'm saying it wrong now.
It's
Ivan.
fine, but again, it's spelled with an F, and unless you know the phonetic Welsh alphabet, you know, that's how you would say it. A lot of people have sort of come across Rhys Ifans. I'm not related to Rhys Ifans. I do get a lot. He has it with an S. Also, Ifan is my middle name. So my last name is even... Okay, it's even true. We'll go for it if you want.
Go on.
So my last name is Preverch.
Preverch.
It's not too A. It's P. So it's spelled weirdly Prythech. ERCH.
I don't think the spelling's helping me at all.
Just lots of one vowel.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like this one vowel. There's one vowel there.
Come on, give it to me again.
Preverch.
Preverch.
Yeah. So
that's close.
This is why that's not too bad. It's a the sound. So it's the TH in Welsh is the same as you would have for the, like the book.
Yeah.
So it's there.
There.
Almost there. Hey, and that's
I can
why.
Feel, also, what annoys me is I can feel it when it's wrong. And I'm actually actively trying to do it. It's like when you do an accent. You've done a lot of accent work, right?
Wow.
Obviously, recently played an American, right?
Yes.
In
You've got
Rogue Heroes,
SAS,
which I did. I watched the entire thing. Loved it.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
It's a good watch.
I didn't like the title.
No,
it jarred with me.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a different show than the one it was because of the title.
That's what I thought. I thought it was a game show.
Yeah.
People were like, oh, check out SAS Rogue Heroes. And I was like, what's that?
Yeah, I think it's because there's like SAS Who Dares Wins. And I thought it was like some spin-off and that. I remember getting the audition through and kind of not that I didn't take it seriously. Yeah. But I was a bit like, what? SAS Rogue, you get the email through and I thought, that sounds a bit crazy. And then having done research on it, it was actually the title of the book by Ben McIntyre,
of course,
which is an amazing book and a really acclaimed book. And I can see why there was something about, like, you know, that style, like those old comic books, like those old Commando books, like those adventure little comic books that you used to get when you were a boy, or like you'd see in vintage bookshops still. There's something about the title that reminded me of that, which I actually quite liked. Yeah, because there is something about it that's like unashamedly like action and adventure. Yeah. And I think we don't get many of those shows now. So I think, and then obviously I was like, I've got Stephen Knight who's done it and he's so brilliant. Yeah. Then I just thought, well, I'll trust whatever you think. Yeah. And I think there's something in that kind of, 1940s, 1950s comic book that they held on to whilst also giving it a kind of a modern heart as well. Yeah. And then I grew to love the name. But at first I was like, no way. Yeah, it's still clanging with me. That's still okay. I've finished the whole series. It's still clanging. But I mean, it's like, it is the name of the book, which makes a lot of sense. You know. So it does. But I think what it means is you have to convince people. Yeah. And that's it's not something that people go, oh, some people I'm sure, you know, who have an already like set interest in history and war history and the SAS, which is a huge number of the population apparently. Yeah. But if you're not, and I think especially maybe like for women or, you know, younger people, they kind of feel a bit jarred with it, and then they watch the show and they realize that, oh my god, it is all those things. It is kind of wartime adventure, you know, boys' own stuff, but actually there's way more into it.
I'd be really curious to see what the key demographic is for that show, because
I think I could,
because I think it's like probably middle-aged men.
Yeah,
but it's quite a cool show. Like it's not a
it's weird.
It's not a dad show.
Tend to come up to me if anyone does or has seen it. It tends to be women. But I wonder if that's because they're more likely to come up and give you a compliment or say they enjoyed your show.
And you're devilishly attractive and all of those things.
Well, that's the problem. Yeah. But then, like a 40, 50-year-old guy in a pub, I think they feel like even if they did enjoy it, they might just respect it from afar or be...
Yeah.
Or they'd want to insult you for some reason. That sometimes happens. Yeah. But who knows? We were actually just about to start the second one.
Sick.
So it was enjoyed enough that they thought we'll give it another go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first season leaves it open for a second.
Yeah.
Which I didn't expect actually. I thought the first season might be quite closed. But
I think it's because the book follows the whole Second World War campaign.
Yeah.
And it works really well for a series. I'm not sure if I'm speaking out of terms, but if it would work the way we think it would work, and we get commissioned and commissioned again, it would work as a 4-series thing, because you had 4 campaigns. So the initial one was really interesting because it was obviously kind of the birth of the whole thing, how it came to be, and the story is so bonkers, wild that, I'm surprised not more people knew about it. I mean, I had no idea about it. So that's the first series, but the second series we have the Sicily and the Italy campaign, and Greece. The third, they have a French campaign, which I'd imagine, I think a lot of, I'm sure you've seen Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff about the Bastards must have been inspired by this campaign, because they were the first guys really to go behind enemy lines, civilian clothing, and just cause as much carnage and damage and kill as many Nazis as they could.
Yeah.
That's what the third series I'd imagine would be. Look, I'm probably not supposed to say any of this.
Yeah,
and the fourth series would be, I think, the German campaign, where things got really ugly, of course, in the war, where soldiers had to go into Germany and fight people who were fighting for their home for the first time, and that was really.
So there was actually if it did run for a few seasons, there's enough stuff in that book to fill it out.
Well, it's interesting actually because
I think that I initially was like, oh, it's just an origin story and that'll be it. But I guess there's just so much that happens.
Yeah, if you kind of think at the end of the first one that it can't get any more ridiculous, and then it kind of does.
Great.
And more characters. Every character seems to get pulled into this story, seems to be as crazy as the last. And I think there was something about this band of people that attracted obviously a certain type of person. Yeah. People who were on the fringes of not necessarily society, but on like the fringes of what was socially deemed acceptable. Yeah. And that's the kind of people they look for. So there's constantly these new characters coming in that are as fascinating as, the characters we had in the first one, like Jack O'Connell's Paddy Mayne. Yeah. David Sterling. Yeah. Played by Connor Swindells. Yeah. So hopefully.
And I do think, that's one of I think that one of the things that kept me watching that show were just how rich those performances were. Yeah. Like those people were really embodied, and it looked like, from an outside perspective. And obviously, because I've got that sort of, like, I occasionally look at it in a kind of meta way because I see you there, and I know you. It's sometimes I kind of look at what the experience might be of shooting that show and be like, that must be mad.
The experience of that show was particularly crazy. Yeah. I think it was like under a set of circumstances that was really specific. So we filmed it in 2021 when COVID was still a big thing, and especially Morocco, where they maybe didn't have the funding in the same way to tackle it like we did here. They tackled it by being very militant because they had to be. Yeah. So we shot in the south of Morocco near where we're at Food. So which is, right in the southern tip. So you're in the Sahara. Yeah. Because of COVID, the whole shoot was pushed a few months. So instead of shooting it in early winter, spring, we shot in summer. So, it was like 50 degrees by the end. And it also meant that once you were out there, you were out there. Yeah. So even if you had one scene, you were there for minimum 6-7 weeks. Because there was one flight that went at the start of the job, there was one flight that went in the middle, and there was one flight that went at the end. Yeah. Most of us were there from beginning to end. Yeah. But then we had a big cast change halfway through. Yeah. But it meant that anyone was in those 2 blocks, you were there the whole time. Yeah. So we had a hotel that was in the middle of nowhere that was just for the actors. actors and SAs. And then about 45 minutes down the road, you had crew and production in a different hotel.
Yeah.
And that was it. You know,
wow.
We had a swimming pool, we had a bar, a restaurant. It was great. It was like a camp. It was like a holiday camp, but we all went a bit insane. And it kind of really worked for the job because it meant that we had to isolate for 2 weeks, right? Yeah. To start. And then the crew needed a week prep. So we had 3 weeks where we as a cast were just locked in this hotel in the middle of the dunes, in the middle of nowhere. What did you do? We played loads of poker. I guess. We played a lot of water polo. Yeah. We got to know each other really well. Yeah. We would get up at about 6 a.m. every day, and then about 7 a.m. we'd do army drills and training, and it was really funny because this started off really regimented, right? Yeah. And even if you were hungover, you had to be there, and everyone would turn up. And then slowly this progressed to like from being drills and assault courses and, you know, press ups and whatnot to just getting up at 7 a.m. to play a massive game of rounders. It was just a mad time. Yeah, it was really cool.
And so much of that seems to translate onto screen, and
I think so.
The way that you are together.
Yeah, because by the time we started shooting, we had been, you know, we'd already were looking pretty ragged. We'd been together for 3 weeks, which in the grand scheme of things is quite a long time to spend with a bunch of people you've never met before.
Yeah.
So we kind of fast tracked into this community, and we're really looking forward for those, because most of us are going back, you know, unless we're dead or disappeared or, you know, whatever, most of us are going back for the second. So.
And I guess because of the way that your character plays out, I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything, but because you don't really have much, any storylines that kind of segue into civilized society. Yeah. You're never back in, you know, wherever you are. Like
no. We are just in the desert the whole time.
You're in the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the wild.
Yeah, it was so fun because it felt so real and authentic in the sense that everything you see on screen was us doing it. You know, there was a few stuntmen out there, but I think they had a pretty easy ride because all the driving, all the stunts pretty much were the actors. And so we were just firing guns.
Did you jump off the back of a moving car?
Jumping off the back of moving cars. Great. And it was pretty free-flowing, and it was really fun. Tom Shankland, who directed it, was very much interested in it, everything kind of feeling organic and fun in the moment. So he would give us like the bare bones structure of what he wanted to happen. Yeah. And then he would just be like, go, play, essentially. So, you know, I need these cars to come out from the desert. You're all going to park up. You're going to unload. You're going to chat. You're going to fire off some guns over there. Yeah. But it wasn't choreographed in a way, you know, it always felt safe. Yeah. But it always felt like you never knew what was going to happen, really. Yeah. So, and that was really, really
The series feels really consistent. It was the same director throughout the whole series.
Same director, yeah. He was amazing. You know, sometimes you work with someone who, I don't know, you know, who's so universally respected within the world that we were working in. Because one, he was a level head in a world that was kind of the complete opposite. And, you know, we were battling literal like scorpions and snakes and COVID and 50, you know, all those things. He was so positive, always knew what you wanted, and knew the book and the character better than any of the actors or even, you know, anyone who worked on it, really.
Yeah, I imagine the scorpions and the snake thing would be the worst part for me. I'm not a creepy crawly guy.
No,
really not. Nah.
It doesn't bother me that much. We had a snake wrangler. Right.
Do you know what it was? It's like when you're out, you have this like base in the middle of the desert, and it's surrounded by all of these walls. And obviously in Morocco, they've got lots of holes in the walls.
Holes everywhere.
Yeah, it was like, so this is something I found out because I went to Morocco recently. But all those holes in Moroccan walls were there for
ventilation. Well, it's like aircon, right?
They were originally there for like scaffolding because they used them as like, so that they could use them to repair the walls later on as well. But also apparently it's got something to do with allowing them to expand without cracking or something.
Wow.
Like that. But you go to this place in the desert and it's like there's a few like kind of walls that are falling down, but they've all got lots of holes in. And there's people like walking around those walls. And I was like, the thing that scared me the most was like, what's in those little holes?
Yeah.
What if there's scorpions and snakes and stuff in those? Because you're in the desert.
Yeah. And there's only so much you can do to protect. So we had this guy who would turn up to set like maybe 2 hours before everyone else, and he would scope out for any snakes and scorpions. Yeah. So he showed us, you know, he would follow tracks in the sand, and he would be able to tell if a snake had crossed, or, you know, but often it was windy, and I'm sure you can't tell. And then he would catch them, and he'd put them in these plastic water bottles. And so he'd show us. And he'd basically keep them there until we left, and then he'd release them, I think, I hope, fingers crossed. Connor was convinced that it was the same snake and scorpion every time. And he was just justifying getting like the easiest paycheck in the world.
Good day rate.
Oh my God, yeah, because they couldn't not have him. There was one day where there was a king cobra in base camp.
Yeah.
And I think he was in the catering tent, and they chased him out. And one of the locals threw a chair at the snake, and he sort of knew what he was doing because the snake then wrapped around this chair, and then this ring of people surrounded it. And what was really freaky, I wasn't there, we were filming, but we'd been there that morning. But he's dead eyes everyone, so he just looks everyone in the eye, and he goes around this circle. This snake kind of, obviously he's protecting himself, but this is, one of the most lethal snakes in the world. So he starts then making his way towards our trailers, and I think he got the maybe this isn't for legal reason, but he got the chop with the shovel. Yeah, wow. And I said, obviously animal cruelty, not here for it, but in that situation it's kind of like, well,
if it's super deadly,
and there was like 30 people around him, then
what else can you do?
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then we fried it and ate it.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, back in the catering tent.
Yeah. Treat, and that was lunch.
So I guess like this is an acting podcast, and we talk a lot about acting.
Shit.
Not loads. Usually, just chat. But yeah, I guess I'm curious, like, where did it begin? It's always a really nice question, I think, to ask. It's like, where did it start? I guess, what did you want when you first started acting?
That's interesting. So I think it began I'm first language Welsh, and within Wales, Wales is quite a performance-led country anyway, and being a kid in Wales, especially being a Welsh speaker, you're sort of made to perform from a very early age. Yeah. Choirs, in poetry readings, in plays, in everything. So everyone does it from such an early age. And so I always kind of did it a little bit when I was a kid. And I think when I was about 10, 11, I was part of a drama club. And then I sort of just stopped, and I was like, oh, that's just something I did when I was in primary school that I always quite enjoyed, but I never saw myself doing, or maybe I secretly saw myself doing, but through high school, I didn't do drama, or I don't think it was considered like necessarily a cool thing to do or whatever. And obviously you're that way biased when you're that age. So it was kind of when I was 17, I started going out with a girl. Always comes back to that, doesn't it, really? Yeah. And she was part of the local theatre group, the Aberystwyth Arts Centre. And she basically was like, dude, just join. Because she could tell I would go to see her shows, and I would go and support. And I always had so many questions. And I obviously just wanted to take part, but I was kind of maybe too embarrassed or whatever. Yeah. And she was like, just sign up. So I did. And I think the first thing I did was a production of Oh, What a Lovely War. And then we did Macbeth. It was great because at the Art Centre, it was kind of everything that I didn't want a drama club to be, because I think my experience of it often was like lots of playing games. Now I'm like, I love all that stuff, but I think at the time I thought that was lame or uncool, or catching and zip zap boing or whatever. Yeah. I was like not interested in that. Whereas the Art Centre, you just turned up and you just did a play. Yeah. You were just rehearsed like you would in the profession. You'd put it on, but you were all just like between the ages of 12 and 20. Yeah. And we did, and they just constantly put on shows. So I did that. I kind of fell in love with that.
I think I actually fell in love with drama games as an adult. Yeah. Like way more. Like when I was younger, I was like, I'm not playing Zip Zap Boing. Now I'm like, let's play some fucking Zip Zap. Let's get in.
It's having the excuse to play a game.
Yeah.
You know what
100%.
I mean? Like,
but also I think it's like it relates to the way that we perform. I think if you can cultivate, a feeling or a sense of play, you're going to get so much more out of the work that you do, I think.
Yeah, and it's really energizing, So there's a great director, Ned Bennett, and he came in to work with us when I was in college to direct. He's gone on to do loads of amazing plays, and he has a really specific way of working where it's really long days, it's really intense, but really brilliant. Everyone loves it. But in order to keep up that energy, after any lull, after any tea break, after lunch, you play a game. Yeah. And it's generally always pat ball. Yeah. And I was a bit like...
What's pat ball?
It's sort of like squash.
Yeah.
You know, it's like two teams, you're bouncing the ball against the wall. It's not allowed to bounce more than, you know, it's a bit like big baby squash.
Nice.
But actually you can get really skilled and competitive at it.
Yeah.
And then sort of some sort of semi-league develops and people get really into it. But more than anything, it lifts you back up into that space. And all of a sudden you're like, you're ready to go. Because that's the worst thing in rehearsal, right? When you're in 4 hours and you're like, I'm dying here. You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, I always feel, because we get through a lot of scenes in the actor's yard, like on a regular basis. And there are times when people, you know, sit down for a long time. So there was a point where I was like, oh, do I want to bring in another game halfway through the thing just to kind of re-energize people? But actually what's really nice about Tay is generally people are so engaged all the time that they don't really have the energy really doesn't drop in that kind of like, I guess, 3-hour period where everyone's just kind of in, which is like a super nice feeling.
Yeah, there's a thing, ultradian cycles, that obviously as humans we work in, and apparently it's in 90 minutes. So after 90 minutes, your brain naturally switches off or it tries to find something else to focus on, but it needs that rest period, right? So I was talking about a 3-hour session. Well, actually, it's kind of perfect. You do, an hour and a half of work, you chill, you do a little game, and then you're back in.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're expected to do a table read for... You know, I did one the other day. I just finished this series back in Wales, and we did a table read that was the whole series pretty much in one day. And it was great, and it was great to hear, but there's only so much concentration your body can allow you to have. And especially actors, like half the time, you know, like a third of them are probably ADHD, the other half are just, you know...
Dyslexic.
Yeah, dyslexic. You know, it's just the way it goes, isn't it?
For sure.
And so it can be really difficult, I think, in those situations. So... to have an excuse to like throw a ball about.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so there for that. And also I think it trains focus as well. You don't have anything else to concentrate on. Your thoughts aren't elsewhere. They're just, if you're playing, what's the game called? Pat ball.
Yeah.
You just focus on patting a ball, right? That's it. Like there's nothing else that's coming into your sphere of consciousness. You're just like, that's why I love skateboarding and sport because it just takes my mind away from juggling so many thoughts, you know? And I think that is actually really useful to the work. Yeah. The more that you can streamline your attention, I think the better your work can be.
Yeah, it's also that whole, the lessons of games, you know what I mean? That sometimes it's really good to remind yourself, like, especially in this industry, there's this expectation of getting things right the first time.
Yeah.
You know, people are always nervous about that debut or that first film if they want to be a director. Yeah. It's like, it's such a crazy thing to do. Like, why are you expecting it to be so perfect the first time? And that's the same with performance. Like, the first time you get up in front of a room, you kind of want it to be like that wow moment. Like, do you know what I mean? As if you've nailed it first time.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I was getting to it, because thinking of games, you're constantly failing, you're getting better. Skateboarding. I watched that thing, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, you know, that with Jerry Seinfeld, and he says a thing about skateboarders. He's like, what's brilliant about watching a skateboard is, you know, to get that trick, like that guy fell 100, 150 times before he landed it. Yeah. And he says, and that's why anytime I see a skateboarder when he's a kid, I think that guy's going to be all right in life, because he will have learned that you have to, one, get things wrong, fail, but also probably go through some pain. Yeah, ultimately, it's adversity, it's like trying. But I think in this profession, we're obsessed with this idea of it being like amazing straight away, even in the rehearsal. Yeah, I think egotistically as an actor anyway.
I think so too. I think also, I'm not trying to plug Tay, but if you are an actor and you are looking for someone to, I'm joking.
Please, go.
Yeah, please do go. But yeah, one of the things that we really push for in Tay is like to really not worry about making mistakes.
Yeah.
And what I've found is that very often actors who've done quite well, or have they've managed to sustain a pretty impressive career, when they come to Tay, there is a little bit of reticence, because I feel like those guys, they feel like they should be impressing other people.
Yeah.
And like that for us is like the opposite of what we're trying to do in the room. There is no sense of wanting to try and impress your peers there. What we do is like, we fuck about and we see what we make, and we all talk about it and investigate it. So making huge, bold choices that make no fucking sense whatsoever, that just absolutely just completely mad, and they don't work at all. We learn so much from those things. Yeah. Because you can go like, oh my God, it was really interesting that you made that choice, or that character did that thing in that moment, right? like, what the fuck was going on? That's amazing. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that because we're not really, the thing about Tay is we're not an acting class.
Yeah.
It's a big secret, but we're actually not an acting class. We don't actually teach anyone.
It's like a space, isn't it? It's a safe space.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Actually, what's more impressive than watching someone go up and make a fool? Like, for me, that's the most interesting thing anyway.
Yeah.
Is like watch someone be like, oh my God, this guy does not care. And that's
totally.
That, I mean, sometimes we can confuse, I don't know, there's a lot of words for it. Some people call it talent, some people call it whatever it is. But for me, the most impressive thing always when I'm watching someone on stage is when I feel like they're so willing to not just be vulnerable, but be stupid and be silly and put themselves in funny positions where they don't know where they're going. We used to have an acting coach or a tutor when we were at drama school who would say all the most interesting stuff is when you're in the shit. And it's always true, right?
I completely agree.
Watching someone try. It's why people love seeing people on stage get it wrong.
Yeah.
If they deal with it in the right way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's a moment of complete presence.
It's like, this is only happening now.
Yeah.
You never get it with a film, but it's like, I'm watching this person trying to get out this situation. I'm reminded that it's a live experience.
Yeah.
That it's dangerous in that sense.
Yeah.
It could be really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It could be really brilliant. And then watching someone try to navigate through that is way more compelling than watching someone do something they've done 1,000 times really well.
Do you know one thing that I found amazing, I think is an amazing habit, like I think that you should have as an actor, is when you don't hear something, don't respond to it.
Yeah.
It's a really nice thing when somebody says their line and it's quite quiet and the other actor hasn't heard them and they go, what?
Yeah.
I love that moment. And then both of you are really there because the other one's like, they have to be engaged and repeat that thing because the person hasn't heard it. And that other person's not going to go on unless they hear it, right?
Well, there's that famous story, and I don't know, I'm sure it's gone through like many iterations of Chinese whispers, but it wasn't that long ago, and, I think it comes from credible sources, but Kim Cattrall was doing that play at the Royal Court, and I think she pulled out like a week before, I can't remember why, but for some personal reasons. And so Noma Deswani went on as her role, and it was this like, not one-woman show, but she essentially was on stage the whole time. She had to cook like entire meals in this kitchen on stage, like really big performance to try and take on. And she had a week to prepare or even less. Now the audience knew this because it was like in the papers.
Yeah.
And everyone's going quite excited to see this person, essentially what we were talking about, be like, can this person get out the shit? And I think the first few nights she had a book in hand and she was obviously like, she's amazing. She smashed it. And the first night that she went, right, I'm going to try this without the book, she went on, and it was going well. And then she's doing this scene with this girl who throws her a line. And she just takes a pause and just goes, sorry, babe, can you give me that line again? In front of like the whole Royal Court. And everyone's like, oh my God, she's sort of breaking the fourth wall or, like breaking the rules.
Yeah.
But she's really cool with it and she's really confident about it. And the other actor obviously is like freezes up. And she goes, it's okay. Just give me the line again. And so she does, and she's like, no, still not got it. And so she leaves the stage and she goes to get her book and she checks the line. She comes back, they deliver it once again, and she just carries on with the scene. And the whole audience started like ruptured into applause, and it was one of those things that like, it's okay to mess up, but don't let it mess you up. I think if you're confident with it, it's why improvised performances that, improv theatre groups, like they have this skill that I've never really had to do in real life. But I think that's why comedians often go on to make such incredible actors, especially in America. I think they have that real tradition of, going through improvisation comedy groups, the whole Chicago scene, and then they end up being the most incredible, your Steve Carell's, Tina Fey, all these people who went through that route, because I think they're just like, you can throw anything at them.
Yeah, I mean, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
One of the greatest actors of all time.
Exactly.
Comedian.
Yeah, amazing.
Like, I'd say fundamentally a comedian.
I'd say
but one of the greatest actors of all time.
Most of the best actors, I think, are comedians. They're amazing, but in the sense that even if they were started off as serious actors, they have the ability to be funny.
Mark Rylance is very funny.
Very funny. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Along Came Polly. And it's like, oh, it's because they're dedicated and they can deal with anything. And I think as well, they have that ability to be like, just play the fucking truth of it.
Yeah.
And that's the funniest thing.
I also think, like, just thinking about like Mark Rylance now, I think that something that Mark Rylance has in like fucking, he's got bags of it, is game. You know, when like they talk about in clowning, they talk about game, what the game is. Like, I think I might be really reductive and I might be offending some people by trying to explain this. But I think what it is, game, is essentially knowing what is funny to an audience and kind of playing that game.
Okay.
And that might be nothing. It might be a posture. It might be a look. It might be a sensation. It might be a sense of confusion. It can be anything, but you live in it. Like, you find it and you live in it. And that's kind of what clowning's about. Someone's going to be a clown and they're going to be listening to this and think it's complete nonsense what I've just said. But I think that's my understanding of it, is that thing is where you know, and he comes out and he knows when he's got people and he keeps them there. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've watched him do it, and I heard of performances of, you know, Jerusalem, especially where he would feel the audience lose. So I guess he was losing the game or whatever, you know, the expression is, but he could feel, you know, I think someone's in tune with the audience, and okay, they're switching off now, and he would just do the most like ridiculous thing, like just throw a piece of fucking wood against the set, and everyone would snap back in, and then he would have to like re-find them and re-grab them. I think that takes a lot of courage, but I think it takes a lot of experience, you know.
I think it's also one of the best parts of doing it live. It's like that feeling of knowing when they're with you. Yeah. God, that's just the best feeling in the world.
He obviously, he was artistic director of the Globe for like 10 years, wasn't he? So I think if you can sit, like, that stage is famously the one where you know more than any stage that if you're losing the audience or if they're not 100%. With you. So that's probably where that comes from.
Totally. Right? I think I saw him in Jerusalem first time, like 2011.
OG.
Oh, yeah. OG. Yeah. I went both times. I got both tickets. But I think the first time that I really understood that was when I was watching him at the Globe, and I was watching him in Othello, and I was like, cool. That's it.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, I went to see A Little Life last night. I went to the press night of that.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how much I had to say. I mean, reviews aren't even out yet, but there's an actor in that called Zubin. I can't remember his second name. He's amazing. Yeah. And I think he has that exact ability. Like, he comes on really early and does this speech, and it's immediately like everyone just went quiet.
Yeah.
And he played with the audience in like a really interesting way. Like, he had this moment where there's audience at the back of the theatre as well, so they're surrounded on both sides. And it's like he didn't clock them until halfway through the speech, and suddenly he does. And you're not sure whether he can see them or not, but he definitely was playing with both sides. He's amazing. He was also in talking about Ned Bennett. He did the production of Equus a few years ago that was in Stratford and Trafalgar Studios. He's incredible. I think he's definitely got that thing.
I've got to check him out.
Hunt
him down.
I wish I knew his second name, but I also don't think there's that many actors called Zubin. So I'm like, I'm sure if you Google that, you'll find him.
Where's Little Life on?
It's at the Harrow Pinter. Oh. It's the Ivan Van Hove.
Oh, so I've missed Lemons.
I think
just realised that.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'll get around to it. Nah. Classic is all the things I want to see the most, I miss.
Also, I think if they have quite starry casts, they're going to have a shorter run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think, because that was Jenna Coleman and Aidan Turner, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are their contracts on that? You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to do that for 6 months. So
no, of course not.
You've got to go see that quick.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say too much about Little Life, but you read the book?
No, I haven't read the book. I am one, dyslexic, but two,
that's not good enough.
It's a very big book.
It's huge.
And I have to read so many plays.
Yeah.
That I don't really find the time. I'm like halfway through a novel now that I started 6 months ago.
Yeah, classic. Is that just on the bedside table?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about like reading novels as a...
How do I feel in general?
Like, do you think that it contributes to you as an actor, reading novels?
Yeah, 100%. I think anything that's kind of creatively stimulating in any way, like I think reading novels makes you better at everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just feel like because it's the most like fundamental way of discovering new ideas, I think. And it's like, one, it triggers your imagination because you're forced to literally imagine the whole time, even though it's someone else's words. Like, you can drive the whole world in your head.
Yeah.
it presents new ideas. It does all these things, and essentially you're burying yourself in another character's point of view for the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, and I think A Little Life is an amazing book in the sense that, yes, whatever it says about it, it's very painful, it's very traumatic. At times, perhaps maybe too much, but it gets away with it because you're so on board with these people being real people that you just spend the book worrying about them. It was a really weird sensation when I was reading it. Like I would get off the tube and I'd be like, I hope Jude's okay. You know, and I think it's because this is like 850 page epic that you can take you to those places. But I think in any book, surely that's what you hope for, is that you completely inhabit someone else's.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that I was working with an actor, Dario Coates is his name.
Brilliant, that was good.
He's a lovely guy. And also one of those actors who's really, really dedicated to what he does.
Yeah.
He is in, like, he loves it so much. And I really respect that. I love people who love the craft. And he, like big novel reader, he loves reading novels. And he's like, it's just so stimulating for my imagination. How could it not be supporting my acting craft? The thing that I love about a novel, even though I never get to read them, I would love to be able to finish this novel. I'm reading The Secret History. History of Tom Tom. I've never read it before. Everyone says it's such a great book, and I'm about halfway through it, and I'm loving it. And I think the thing that I love about it so much is actually, because I really like seeing or being around things that I can't do. When I see someone do something that I can't do, I love that sensation. And I can do a lot of stuff. And like, not in an arrogant way, I can do quite a lot of stuff. I'm quite a capable person. But when I see someone do something that I can't do, I'm in love. I fall in love with that thing. And so when I read a novel, and it's great, when I see like a sentence structure, this is one of the reasons why it takes me so long to read a book, is because I read a sentence and I go, that's just, I could have never put that string of words together in my entire life.
Isn't that like, I always think that's the key to good writing, is essentially when someone can encapsulate so succinctly a feeling that you know so well, but they just put it in a way that you never thought of, but you know exactly what they're talking about. So it's a really weird sensation. Look, I know what you mean, but I would never have been able to put it so beautifully and intricately. And actually, that's why it's enlightening. It's like, oh fuck, I know what that feels like, and I know what exactly that expression is. And I think also, especially when it's concise. When it's like, there's no fat. She's amazing.
I love it. I couldn't repeat a line off the back of my head. But there is again. Let's hope as a tree surgeon.
It's hope, and that the tree will pull through.
You
know.
And that they're just a really nice person as well. Do you know what I mean? Like a good person.
Because or he or she, or they.
He, she, or they.
And I hope they're beautiful and their life is going really well.
Yeah, me too.
And that they fall off that tree soon, so they can shut the fuck up. I actually hope they're a bad person and they get struck by lightning, and then we carry on with the pod. The pod, I said it.
I mean, either way.
I'm a podcaster now.
He's a pod.
No, bad.
No, come on the pod. Come down and
we could do like a real. Should we do like a real Joe Rogan? Start smoking cigars.
Do they do that?
Yeah. He's always smoking a cigar. Not that I'd watch it.
Yeah. I get snippets.
You know, sometimes do you feel like YouTube tries to push things on you sometimes? And it will go through phases of trying to make me right wing, I think. I'm not saying because people listen to Joe Rogan, that, and that's not what I'm saying. But like, I had a flurry, and I think it's because I was trying to get in shape, and so I was probably looking up more like gym-based videos. And so YouTube decided, because of this, that I must love stuff by Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan. And then all of a sudden my algorithm was like pushing all these videos. And anyway, within those videos, he's always got like a glass of whiskey, cigar, spliff, kind of anything goes.
I get a few Joe Rogan things through because like my algorithm's really tailored towards motivation. And being a high achiever or whatever, and so a lot of the guests that they have on there are very like they have a lot of sound bites that are really focused that way. So I get applied to those, but I've never got any of the cigars and whiskey stuff. Also, one of the things that I'm really proud of is that my algorithm, I will now because I'm right next to my phone, my algorithm has never offered me any Andrew Tate shit ever.
No.
So I'm like quite pleased.
That's good.
I'm quite pleased about that.
Yeah. We haven't fallen down that far down the rabbit hole. You're just a few Joe Rogan videos away.
I just feel like maybe I'm past that like age gap.
Because it knows exactly how old you are.
Yeah, like it wants to sucker in a bunch of like 25-year-old boys who feel like unsatisfied or something.
Well, even younger. My brother was on the bus last week in Cardiff, and he said there was 2 boys got on the bus, and they'd obviously like skived off school, and they were probably like 11, 12, and that's all they talked about. The bus was Andrew Tate. It's like, you know, he's a god, he's the king. Like, my God. And he was like, it's this really terrifying thing where you're
also, right, I mean, like, it's really difficult because like obviously everything that I've heard about Andrew Tate, I think he's the devil, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about it. So again, it's like I'm one of those people that's just gone, I've heard what I've heard, and that's the...
Can I speak on this?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can speak on anything because all of the information that you get is so fragmented and so, I don't know, tailored for a very specific point of view, which is really scary to me.
Well, we were having this conversation before we started recording, and it was a similar thing where it's like the sort of older I get, the more I realize I don't really know anything about anything.
Yeah.
I think that's part of growing up and learning about, especially with like when you think you're being good, or you think you're being charitable, or you think you're doing the right thing, like ultimately something will come and disprove that, you know, recycling, or, you know, whatever it is, eating meat or not eating meat or whatever, you know, you try and set your moral compass to some sort and put boundaries in place, but then it's disproven at every joint. And this by no means is a defense of Andrew Tate, right? I have. I've watched enough and seen enough. I watched a BBC documentary about it, which of course is going to be skewed, or maybe it was a Vice documentary. It was on iPlayer.
Yeah.
But it seemed to be, you know, it had enough footage of him just talking that you could form an opinion. Yeah. And I think you're fine to say, firmly plant your flag. Like he's the worst of the worst.
That makes sense to me.
There's an interesting thing though about the whole like young boy situation where, like, I look back on it and I'm like, I think boys of that age naturally do go through a really like tough and tricky part of growing up, where I think of myself at that age and some of the stuff I used to say and some of the stuff we used to watch and chat about within our group of mates that you're like, I look back and think are absolutely abhorrent now, but it's kind of like, it's a really difficult time where you're battling against, I don't know, lots of hormones changing and testosterone. You don't know where you are in the world. It's quite a violent. Kids are cruel to each other. Like boys are really mean to each other, and like they have to put on this like macho act front for a few years, often just to survive in high school, and then they kind of mellow out generally during university. I think, you know, of course we should be worried about young men, but I think ultimately, like, it's kind of where the conversation happens that I think is important. And
I think the tricky thing for me is like we were quite lucky in that we had a little bit more space to figure it out. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I feel like now people are made, like people's viewpoints are kind of constructed for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, and they just kind of get into these cycles. Like, you know, we were talking about, before we started recording, we were talking about kids very briefly, maybe. And I was like, and the reality is that I think, like, I don't want to have kids right now. It's not something that's on my agenda. It's not something that's on my mind, having kids. But one thing that really scares me about the prospect of having children is TikTok.
Yeah.
That genuinely terrifies me. Because I'm like, how can you deny a child a phone with access to TikTok now? Because all of their friends are going to be on it.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's when your brain is not fully developed and you haven't made your choices about the world and you haven't experienced other people really, like, it's such a dangerous thing, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's scary, but I think maybe there's always something that parents are going to be worried about when it comes to the children. Yeah. Like, it was probably like television when it came out, or you know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be something. Also, like TikTok and the way it exists now, by the time we have kids and they grow up, like, who knows what the next thing will be.
Well, what was cool was that they found out that video games are actually really good for you.
That's cool.
So for our generation, it was that's amazing.
Yeah.
But like for the like at the moment, all the science is saying that TikTok's really bad for your brain.
Yeah.
Like awful.
Yeah.
Have you heard this thing about like the algorithm in China pushes like kind of really like humanly impressive things like engineering and stuff like that.
Oh, really? To try and educate the children?
Yeah, but like in like the UK and the US or whatever, it's just like dance crazes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I always think like culturally, the thing that China seem to be famous for when it comes to educating their children is like a stiff rigor, right? And it's like exams, studying, head down. And also the thing that's come out of China seems to be the most distracting thing that's ever existed ever. And the most effectively distracting thing that's ever existed. It's like tapped into every part of dopamine that your body seems to be able to function and goes, go overdrive, feed. And it's like, I'm sure they as a government, although it's government owned, right?
Yeah.
Will find a way to turn that into that's what I mean. It's like by the time our children, like, who knows, they might have morphed that technology into something. Right now it's addictive in a damaging way. But what if it's, you know, morphed into something that's addictive and good for you?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, when will they make healthy McDonald's? My brother's obsessed with this. It's like, one day McDonald's will be really good for you and it will taste as good.
I feel like it got better. Because I feel like I had a Big Mac when I was a kid, and I feel like felt like I was going to die. Yeah. And then like had a Big Mac as a teenager, and I was like, or like a 20-year-old or whatever, and I was like,
I think you just got bigger, right?
I just got
you could take it on, like, you know what I mean? Like, because I remember McDonald's having that really successful marketing shift. Do you remember when we were kids? It was the red and yellow Ronald McDonald, proper like old school diner sort of vibe to it. Yeah. And then you had Super Size Me, which was all that McDonald's, and they did a complete reshift, and all their restaurants went green and cream. Yeah. And then there was loads of cows everywhere. Yeah. And I don't think the product changed. I just think everything around it changed. So
that's what fooled me.
We all went, it's kind of not. I think they just smashed it. And they got, what's he called? Dexter Fletcher to do the adverts, and he's got that really trusting McDonald's. Really, like, weirdly the most trusting Cockney voice you've ever heard. Yeah. I don't know. I think they've just smashed it. And I'm a McDonald's fan. Yeah.
The thing that I actually don't like is that, like, I want to get the vegan burger. Yeah. Because because it's Beyond Meat, right? I think Beyond Meat is amazing. Love Beyond Meat. And I do try and avoid eating as much beef as possible. Try and eat, because I do eat meat now. I was veggie for a while, did vegan for a bit, wasn't for me. I was veggie for a while. I try and be as veggie as possible, but I do eat like quite a lot of chicken now. But when I go to McDonald's, I'd really like to get the Beyond Meat, but the vegan burger, right? But one, they always fill it with salad.
Is that not good?
Well, I'm just like, can I not just get like a double cheeseburger, but made with Beyond Meat?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Do I have to like specifically? The crunch is necessary there.
Yeah, well, you're clearly in a lot better shape than that.
Yeah, well, no, that's not true. I think I'm much more of a connoisseur when it comes to McDonald's, maybe.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
You know, I've been hitting McDonald's since day one, and I've never stopped. Yeah. This is really interesting. There's a restaurant near my peer's house. So I mentioned earlier, they live in Barth, which is a tiny little village on the coast of Wales, really beautiful, right? 10 minutes down the road from them is the UK's best restaurant, and it got voted it last year.
Who are they?
It's called Unfiltered Hall, right? And it's this beautiful place. It's on like a nature reserve, an RSPB nature reserve. Of course, old manor. And this guy, Gareth Ward, who I think he's a Northeast. I don't want to say he's a Geordie, but he's from that part of the world. Yeah. And he's gone in there and completely changed the whole place. And the food is like incredible. I went there maybe like 2 months ago after booking it like a year before. Wow. 31 courses. I know to some people that's like the idea of hell, and like they think it's pretentious or whatever, but it was really one of the most incredible like dining experiences I've had. Like, it feels very unpretentious when you're there. And anyway, he's a huge fan of McDonald's. So one of the courses was like his take on a McDonald's, which is crazy.
Really? I feel like I want to go for that.
It's what he smashed. It was like essentially like elevated highbrow McDonald's. So it was like this Wagyu beef that was like probably like 1,000 pounds a kilo, with all the, it's like pickled lettuce and all these little components. But what he had was the McDonald's ketchup on top of it, and it was the actual McDonald's ketchup. And just the fact that it had that, it really made your brain go, I'm having a McDonald's, but it's the best McDonald's I've ever had. Wow. And then there was a McFlurry, which he calls a McFlurry, because it's right next to this place called McFlurry. Very clever.
Very nice.
And it came in these little pots, and it was like banana cream with birch syrup and caviar, right? Which sounds like it shouldn't work, but again, was insanely delicious.
That thing is like, you're making me want to go, because it's like, I know that I could never make that.
But also,
I could never do it.
Yeah.
And so going somewhere where you're like, I could never make this thing. Yeah. It's such an exciting prospect to me.
But also, you could just go to McDonald's. I did think that because I was eating it and I was like, oh my God, this is delicious. It tastes like a McDonald's. And I was like, yeah, but it's probably like 100 times more expensive.
Yeah.
But he said in an, I think, I remember an interview or something, that the best McDonald's is the one in Welshpool in Wales. And enough so that the Western Mail sent a reporter.
But how can they make, I thought they're really strict about how they franchise that thing.
I think we all know there are tiers, right?
Yeah.
It's a good McDonald's and a bad McDonald's. Yeah. I was thinking with Wagamama.
But McDonald's tastes different when you go to different countries because the beef's like different, or the meats are always different.
Yeah, it's generally pretty consistent, right? But some of them you're more likely to get a soggy chip, and some they're going to be fresh and crisp, right?
Yeah.
I think it's that sort of standard of quality control that I'm after. I will ask them to refry the chip.
Right. We're getting towards the end of our time together.
No.
Yeah, Jacob, yeah. So I have this thing. It's like a segment which exists on the end. Did you ever watch Inside the Actors Studio? With,
yes.
James Upton? So he has the thing, like this questionnaire of like 10 questions at the end. I found out that he stole that from a guy called Bernard Pivot, who had his own show in the 70s. And then he kind of in turn stole it from Marcel Proust, who like did the same thing. So I've taken their 10 question questionnaire, bastardized it. So taken the ones that I like, and then, but it's not going to be quick fire. You can have a bit of time to think about it.
Okay, cool.
Because like they're like, quick fire, what is it? What is that? And then they kind of move on, but I'm kind of interested in the answers. So let's do it. This is the Proust Pivot Lipton questionnaire. Are you ready?
Well,
Jacob Ifan, let's do it. What's your favorite word?
Wow. It's the word spigoglis.
Spigoglis.
It's just the Welsh word for spinach. Isn't that good?
That's lovely. Spigoglis.
Spigoglis.
Spigoglis. Brilliant. What sound do you love?
Spigoglis.
Spigoglis.
Just the sound of the word.
The sound of the word. When somebody else says it.
Yeah, especially someone from North Wales, I think. They get away with it in a much...
Are you from North Wales?
No. I'm originally from Cardiff, and then I moved to Mid Wales when I was about 9. So they would sort of say it like, spigoglis. So they're much more sort of up and down with the...
Very nice.
I bet like...
Very lilting.
Yeah.
But you're also saying you like it, so
hey,
how could they be offended? How could they possibly be offended? What sound do you hate?
The sound of... Actually, people... I'm one of those people who can't deal with some people eating.
Yeah.
I'm okay if I'm eating because I can sort of like cover that up.
Yeah.
But like if I'm at the cinema and there's someone brings their own pack of crisps in or something like that for me is like rage. Is it the crunching, or is it the chomping, or is it the squelching, or is it just all of it? Just it's
generally.
All of it. I'm also like I don't mind people getting popcorn in the cinema, right? Because I understand cinemas need popcorn to exist. That's why it's there. Yeah. Also, it's kind of like a snack that you can eat quietly. Yeah, like it's pretty soft.
Yeah.
When someone's gone to like the local Tesco Express and brought in like one of those big Thai Sensations crisps in, I'm like, nah, I'll tell them. I'm not like a confrontational. I'm telling. I had it the other day. I was watching. What was that film with Timothée Chalamet and the zombie kind of Luca Guadagnino film that came out recently?
Oh,
cannibalism.
The Bone.
Yeah, Bones and All.
Bones and All, yeah.
So I went to see Bones and All. I was enjoying it. I couldn't because this guy started eating crisps, right? And it got to a point and I just leaned over and I was like, mate, can you please stop eating crisps? And he looked at me like so shocked. And he was like, I've only just started. And we were kind of doing this across about 9 people between us. It wasn't even that close. And I think in that situation, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Eat crisps. I'm coming across as a real prick. But that's one thing that
I really understand.
Triggering.
I also think the sound in a cinema is unforgivable. Also, not unforgivable. I'm being really extreme there. But it does wind me up. It does wind me up a bit. I'm like one of those people. I do eat in the cinema. I have eaten in the theatre. I'll do it less. I have eaten in the theatre. But I'm one of those people who is just like is poised, waiting, waiting for the music to swell. And
Go. That's me. I'm so conscious of it. Or I'll let the crisp melt on my tongue. Like I'll wait for that. And then I'm not enjoying because I'm thinking about that. And ultimately I'm like, just stop, just watch the film.
Just give up.
I'll have to work on that because I think that's my problem. I think certain things like never bring in and never make, too much noise, all that stuff like phones, whatever, But ultimately, I've got to work on myself, I think.
Great. What's your favorite curse word?
I think it is. There's one in Welsh that it's essentially the Welsh word for cunt, right? But it's cont, and it's much friendlier.
Yeah.
And it's in different contexts. Like you go to North Wales and places in Mid Wales, they would say that as like a friendly term. It would be the same as saying mate. I think Australians also use it in a similar way, right?
Right.
And I think but it's the dexterity of the word that in Wales they're like, because you can also use it in a context to be like,
Yeah.
you've crossed the line.
Yeah.
You're going down. But generally, I think there's something quite fun about it, right? Cont.
It's fun. It's nice. It's fun.
And it even sounds, it's not as aggressive, is it? So it's kind of like getting away with saying it without having to, rub people up the wrong way.
Lovely. What's your favorite quality in another human being?
I think always kindness.
Yeah. Nice. What's your favorite quality in yourself?
I think hopefully that I try and be as kind as I can to everyone I come across.
Yeah.
Unless they're eating crisps. I feel like I have to say that now to save myself.
Just this one scenario.
I also gave the guy a hug after the film finished. We went for a pint.
Of course you did.
Sorted out.
Classic. Okay. So this is getting back to something we were talking before, but if I opened your YouTube, Instagram or TikTok account, what would be the first suggested video?
This is really cliche for an actor at the moment, I think, and I think it would be rock climbing videos.
Rock climbing videos?
Yeah.
Great.
It seems to be this cult that loads of actors have fallen into. I think it makes sense as a sport because you're often free in the middle of the day and looking for something to do.
and that's the best place. And it's like the best time to go.
Maybe we're not the strongest, fittest people in the world, but there's something okay, I can start at this point. I don't know. Then you realize you have to be the strongest, fittest person in the world to do it.
Yeah.
But
I used to climb a lot.
Did you?
And loved it. But then I got a lot bigger. I put on loads of weight and I found it so hard. It just upset me. When I went, I was like, I can't get to the top of something because I'm just so much heavier. And I'd get such serious muscle pump and just get so fatigued when I go. I kind of gave it up.
Hey, let's go. Let's go again.
Just a chubby guy.
No.
Big love. Also, I'm kind of comfortable with it, to be honest.
Isn't it the whole thing with climbing? If you're doing it right, it shouldn't really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it helps, obviously, if you're you tend to think there's a type, right?
Yeah, I heard a long time ago, to be a really good climber, you've got to be lean. And I think I started when I was at my lean. I started when I finished drama school.
Perfect.
And I was
emaciated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Six-pack. I've never had a six-pack.
Yeah.
I'm not a six-pack guy.
Hippie ripped, isn't it? It's that it's a specific body type of thing.
Yeah.
It's that is strength from climbing trees. Yeah. It's only coming from that.
Yeah. What book would you like to reread?
Do you know what's really funny is you talking about The Secret History there.
Yeah.
I thought, I could really give that a second read. So I'm going to go for that.
Sick. If you weren't an actor, what career path would you like to take a stab at?
I think I would definitely still be in the world.
Yeah.
I think directing.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I wanted to do anyway, and so I still want to do.
Yeah.
And so before I even started acting, I studied photography, and I was going to do photography at university, and with the light, to then go behind the camera.
Yeah. I did the similar thing. I studied filmmaking.
Did you?
But I was gonna be an actor director. Yeah. Originally, I was always gonna put myself in stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously, but I did want to be a director, kind of first and foremost, I think.
Yeah.
And then I just really fell in love with the craft, I think.
Yeah. I think I kind of go in and out of love with it in a weird way. I wish I had more diligence and that I was more. I don't know. It's a difficult one because sometimes you do a job and you think, oh, this is perfect. This is what I want to do. I love this. And then it's so peaks and trough. And I think there's something ultimately about having autonomy over your own creative decisions that I think is more appealing. But not obviously you're still answerable to producers sometimes or studio execs or whatever. But ultimately, I think being at the helm of something and
I think that's what it is. You are in the helm, and I think you have to steer the ship. And that's really nice.
Maybe it's egotistical as well. I think there's part of you as an actor that for me, I'm always kind of thinking, well, someone else could do this. I'm not arrogant enough to think of course, I'm going to bring something that is wholly me, that is singular.
Absolutely, yeah.
but ultimately someone else could do this.
Yeah, someone else could bring something different, but they could do the job.
Yeah, and probably better statistically. and I think something with directing, and this is what I mean when it comes down to ego, like maybe it's that part of self that's like, I don't know, chasing something that I think I'd want to create as well, not just take on other people's work and projects. You know, I'd want to write, direct.
Right. What's a line from a film that you will remember forever?
Give me the keys, you fucking cocksucker, motherfucker.
Is that Benicio del Toro's version?
No, he's the fucking... Give me the keys.
Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah,
he's sort of blasé. I think it's Billy Baldwin, isn't it? That's one of the
Stephen Baldwin.
Stephen Baldwin. Yeah. One of the Baldwins.
Give me the fucking keys.
I think that's the line.
That's great. I'd have said Benicio's one.
Well, it's any of them. You could go from Kevin Pollak to... Is it Kevin Pollak, I think?
We got Gabriel Byrne. We've got Benicio del Toro. We've got...
he shall not be named, Kevin Spacey.
Give me the keys. Give me the keys, you cocksucker.
That's good.
That's all right. Go on, give me yours.
Hand me the keys, you fucking cocksucker. That was okay.
That's pretty good.
I dead-eyed you, and I think that made it quite intense.
I want to keep doing it.
Hand me the key. I think he says, hand me the keys.
Hand me the keys, you cocksucker. No, wasn't it?
It's a bit... I think you're going Boston there. Oh, I was like...
Yeah. My name is Lester Burnham. That's not bad. Let's get in there.
Wait, what's his name in it?
I can't believe we're doing impressions of Kevin Spacey.
No, we can't.
We can't be doing that.
We can't be doing that. Kevin Spacey's a bad man.
Yeah, bad man.
But he delivered that line well.
I rewatched American Beauty recently.
Yeah.
Because it's just a phenomenal film.
Yeah.
It's sad that Kevin Spacey's a monster, but I just can't never watch that movie again.
Well, that's the biggest shame, isn't it? Is when you go like, why did you have to do so many amazing films?
Yeah,
it's with all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, before we say something,
if in some, let's just draw a line under it.
Yeah.
If in some mystical ceremony you were transformed into another animal, what would it be? No, and I think when I wrote this question, I kind of meant like, you don't get to choose. You kind of walked in on this ceremony and all of a sudden, right? You get turned into an animal. What animal is that going to be?
Oh, so out of your choice. What would I become? Is it a bit like the sorting out in Harry Potter?
So, yeah.
Or was it's Dark Materials, right?
Right, like what your demon would be.
I get described a lot as a penguin, but I think that's more physical. I've got long arms.
Yeah.
And I just think it's the way I move.
Yeah.
I don't think I've got the temperament of a penguin.
Yeah.
I'm too restless.
Yeah, I think so too.
I would probably be like a monkey, I think.
Yeah.
Or like a dog, but one that's not one of the tiny ones.
Yeah, like a mid-size.
Like a mid-size. We're chatting that maybe like...
I think monkey's good.
A Shiba Inu.
I think you could go... Yeah, I think monkey's great.
A capuchin.
What's a capuchin?
I feel like they're little bastards though. It's that one that like Ross has in Friends. Is that boring to do a Friends reference?
Oh yeah. No, you know what I mean?
Marcel.
That's good.
Marcel's a capuchin.
Yeah, capuchin.
We should do a fact check, but...
I think we should consult the people who conduct these mystical ceremonies.
We talked a lot about animals and let's see.
Okay. So final question is, if upon your departure from this world, death, if the whole world was listening, what would you like them to know?
I really wish you would have, pinged me over these in an email so I could come up with something.
You don't get that.
No, it's good. It's organic, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it was you've just found out. Everyone's listening.
Everyone's listening.
This is your one shot to say something that the whole world will hear.
I think I would want them to know that when I spoke about Kevin Spacey on the Actors Yard podcast, right, that in no way was I condoning his behavior.
Yeah.
Merely highlighting that he was part of a lot of impressive films.
Yeah.
That I happen to be a fan of growing up.
Yeah.
And I have confused feelings about those.
Yeah.
And if I could be absolved in any way, if it felt like I was advertising him before being considered for the afterlife, whatever that is, I would just want them to know. I'd want them to take that into consideration. I think
it's understandable. I think
that's fine, isn't it? And then everyone in the world will go, we didn't listen to it. And now you've just told us.
Yeah, now you just confessed completely.
I'm not saying no one's going to listen to this.
No, I'm just going to say I don't think 7 billion people are going to listen to this.
I don't think 7 billion. Statistically, that would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
But you got to dream big.
You've got to dream big. Jacob Ifan.
On that note.
Thank you so much for coming on the Actors Out podcast. It's been absolutely lovely having you.
Yeah, let's chat, pal.
Let's get a pint, shall we?
Yeah.